The letter arrived on the anniversary of my father's death, like a ghost reaching out from the past. I found it tucked between bills and junk mail, my mother's elegant handwriting unmistakable even after 15 years of silence. My name is Alara, and I thought I'd built an impenetrable wall between my present and the mess of my childhood. But there I was, standing in my kitchen, hands trembling as I held the envelope that threatened to unravel everything. "You need to know the truth about your father," the letter began. "Things aren't what they seemed." I nearly threw it in the trash, right next to the wilting roses I'd bought for Dad's grave. The nerve of her, reaching out today of all days. But something stopped me. Maybe curiosity, maybe masochism. My phone buzzed. My assistant's name flashed on the screen. "Alara, the Morgan account meeting starts in 20 minutes. "I'll be there," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Just finishing up some personal business." "Everything okay? You sound off." "Fine," I lied, staring at the letter. "Just fine." After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of wine, Dad's favorite Merlot, and forced myself to read the rest. Each word felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "There are things you don't know about the bakery, about why it failed. Your father wasn't the saint you think he was. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. You deserve to know everything." I crumpled the letter, then smoothed it out again. Mom had always been manipulative, weaving truth and lies until you couldn't tell them apart. But this was different. She'd never mentioned Dad's bakery before, not since the day she walked out on us.
My phone buzzed again.
"Meeting in 5 minutes." I should have been heading out the door, but instead, I found myself opening my laptop, typing my mother's name into the search bar. What I found made my blood run cold. She wasn't just back in town. She'd been here for months, and she wasn't alone. I arrived at Riverside Cafe 20 minutes early, hoping to scope out the situation before Mom showed up. Instead, I found her already there, looking exactly as polished as she had 15 years ago, sitting with a teenage girl who could have been my younger clone. My steps faltered. The girl noticed me first, her eyes widening with recognition. She must have seen photos of me somewhere, because I certainly hadn't seen any of her. "Alara," Mom stood up, arms open for a hug I had no intention of giving. "This is Sienna, your sister." The word hit me like a physical blow. I remained standing, my hands gripping the back of the empty chair. "Half-sister," I corrected, watching Mom's perfect smile crack just slightly. "Please sit," she gestured. "I ordered your favorite vanilla latte with an extra shot." "That was my favorite when I was 15, I said, but sat anyway. "I drink black coffee now." Sienna shifted uncomfortably, her fingers playing with a worn friendship bracelet. Something about her nervousness reminded me of myself at that age, always trying to navigate Mom's emotional minefields. "So," I said, addressing the elephant in the room, "what's this about Dad's bakery?" Mom's perfectly manicured fingers tapped against her cup. "It's complicated, darling. There were loans, investments. Then uncomplicated." Sienna's eyes darted between us like she was watching a tennis match. I noticed she hadn't touched her drink either. "Your father," Mom paused, choosing her words carefully, "wasn't entirely honest about the bakery's finances. There were irregularities." "Irregularities," I repeated, feeling my blood pressure rise. "Is that what we're calling it when you cleaned out his business account and disappeared?" Mom's face paled. "Is that what he told you?" "He didn't have to tell me anything. I found the bank statements when I was 19. Sienna suddenly stood up. "I need some air," she mumbled, practically running toward the door. Mom watched her go, genuine concern crossing her face. "She's applying to colleges," she said softly. "But we're having financial difficulties." And there it was, the real reason for this little family reunion. "No," I said, standing up. "Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is no." I was scrolling through social media during my lunch break when I saw it, a GoFundMe page shared by one of my old high school friends. "Help single mother and daughter pursue their dreams," complete with a photo of Mom and Sienna looking appropriately desperate. My coffee mug nearly slipped from my hand as I read Mom's carefully crafted story about her successful eldest daughter, who refused to help her struggling family. The campaign had already raised over $12,000. Did you see this? My coworker Rachel leaned over my cubicle wall, phone in hand. Isn't this your mom? I closed my laptop so quickly it made a snapping sound. I need to make a call. In the stairwell, I pulled up Derek Brooks's contact information, Sienna's father, which I'd found during my late-night research. My hands shook as I dialed. Hello. A deep voice answered. Mr. Brooks? This is Alara Thompson, Vivian's daughter. A long pause followed. I was wondering when you'd call. Is it true? About the financial struggles? He let out a bitter laugh. Vivian gets $5,000 a month in alimony. Has for the past 3 years. Plus the house I bought her. My free hand gripped the stair railing. The house she's supposedly about to lose? The fully paid-off house? Yeah, that one. I heard voices in the background, then Derek speaking to someone else. When he returned, his tone had changed. Listen, Alara, there's something else you should know. Sienna's trust fund. The call dropped. I tried redialing, but it went straight to voicemail. My phone buzzed with a text from Sienna. Can we meet? Without Mom? I stared at the message, thinking about the frightened look on her face at the cafe, the worn friendship bracelet, the way she'd run when things got tense. She was me, 15 years ago, and I hadn't had anyone to turn to. Where? I texted back. The bakery, she replied. Dad's old bakery. I have something to show you. The building had been empty for years, but I still had the key. Dad had left it to me in his will, along with a letter I never opened. Maybe it was time. The old bakery, key felt heavy in my hand as I approached the building. Sienna was already there, sitting on the steps, hugging herself against the evening chill. She jumped up when she saw me, clutching her backpack like a shield. Thanks for coming, she said, watching me unlock the door. Mom doesn't know I'm here. The interior smelled of dust and forgotten dreams. Dad's old mixer still stood in the corner, covered in a sheet like a ghost. I flicked on the lights, and memories flooded back. Early mornings helping Dad knead dough, the warmth of fresh bread, the day Mom left. I found these in Mom's office. Sienna pulled out a stack of papers. She doesn't know I have them. My hands trembled as I read. Bank statements, transfer records, emails between Mom and Dad from 15 years ago. The story they told was worse than I'd imagined. She didn't just take the money, I whispered. She was embezzling for years before that. Sienna nodded. There's more. The trust fund my dad set up for me? She's been draining it. That's why she needs your help with college. A notification popped up on my phone, another donation to Mom's GoFundMe, this time for my boss. The irony made me laugh until I realized I was crying. I have to expose her, I said, but Sienna grabbed my arm.
Wait.
Please. Her eyes were desperate. If you do that, she'll know I showed you these. And she hesitated. There's something else. Something about your dad's will.
The front door chimed.
We both froze. Sienna? Mom's voice rang through the empty bakery. Darling, are you in here? Sienna shoved the papers back into her bag, panic written across her face. She must have followed me. I grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the back office. There's another way out through. Well, isn't this cozy? Mom stood in the doorway, her smile sharp as broken glass. Having a little family reunion without me? The papers in Sienna's bag suddenly felt like a lit fuse, and we were running out of time. Those papers in your bag, Mom said, stepping closer. I've been looking for them everywhere. Her voice was honey-sweet, but her eyes were fixed on Sienna's backpack like a predator. I moved between them. How long have you been stealing from her trust fund? Mom's smile didn't waver. Is that what she told you? Darling, you don't understand. I'm protecting that money. Sienna's too young to manage it responsibly. Like you protected Dad's bakery? The words came out sharp enough to cut. Your father, Mom started, but I wasn't finished. I saw the GoFundMe page, and I talked to Derek. Something flickered across Mom's face, fear, maybe, or rage. She reached for Sienna's bag. Give me those papers. Sienna backed away.
No. Now, Sienna.
I recognized that tone, the one that used to make me fold like a house of cards. But Sienna stood her ground. I already made copies, she said, and sent them to Derek's lawyer. Mom's perfect facade cracked. She lunged for the bag, but I caught her arm. The force of it sent us both stumbling into Dad's old mixer. The sheet covering it slipped, revealing a sealed envelope taped to the side. My name was written on it in Dad's handwriting. Mom saw it too. Her face went white. "You said Dad didn't leave any letters," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Alara, you said he died without explaining anything. I was protecting you." "From what?" Mom's composure shattered completely. "From knowing he was going to expose me. He was going to ruin everything, the life I built, my reputation. I couldn't let him." She stopped, realizing what she'd revealed. Sienna's phone was out, recording everything. Dad didn't die of a heart attack, did he? My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely reach for the envelope. "What really happened that night, Mom?" The silence that followed was deafening. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Mom's eyes darted to the back door. "Sienna, come with me."
Now.
But Sienna moved to stand beside me instead. The police arrived before I could open Dad's letter. Everything happened in a blur. Mom being led away in handcuffs, Sienna giving her statement, Derek showing up with his lawyer. I sat on the bakery steps, the unopened letter burning a hole in my pocket, unable to move. "The medical examiner will want to review your father's case," Detective Martinez said, jotting notes in her pad. "Given your mother's confession about being there that night." I barely heard her. 15 years of believing Dad died alone, of blaming him for not fighting harder to keep the bakery, of thinking he'd given up. All lies. "Alara?" Sienna sat beside me, her voice small. "There's something else you should know. About the night your dad." "About that night." My fingers closed around the letter. "You were only 3. Mom used to talk in her sleep. She'd have these nightmares, saying his name, begging him not to call someone." Sienna's hands twisted in her lap. "I found an old business card in those papers. From a fraud investigator." The world tilted sideways. Dad hadn't given up. He'd been gathering evidence, planning to expose Mom's schemes. And then he'd had his heart attack. Derek approached, his face grim. "The trust fund's gone. All of it. Vivian must have transferred everything when she realized Sienna was helping you." "I'm so sorry," Sienna whispered. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't—" "Stop." My voice cracked. "None of this is your fault." But I couldn't bring myself to open Dad's letter. Not yet. Not when every truth I'd built my life around was crumbling. My phone buzzed, a news alert. Mom's arrest was already making headlines. My boss's name popped up on screen, then my biggest clients. The career I'd spent years building would be tainted by association. "What do we do now?" Sienna asked. I looked at the bakery's dusty windows, remembering Dad's dreams for this place. Mom hadn't just stolen money. She'd stolen our futures, our trust, our chance at being a real family. "Now," I said, finally breaking the seal on Dad's letter. "We learn the truth. All of it." Dad's letter shook in my hands as I read the final lines. "The evidence is in the mixer, Alara. The false accounts, the transfers, everything. I'm meeting Vivian tonight to give her one last chance to come clean. If anything happens to me—" I looked up at the old mixer, really looked at it this time. The side panel was loose. "Help me with this," I told Sienna. Together, we pried it open. Inside was a USB drive and a stack of documents, preserved in plastic. 15 years of evidence, waiting to be found.
My phone rang.
The detention center's number. "Don't answer it," Derek warned, but I had to. "I know what you found." Mom's voice was different now, desperate, raw. "But you don't understand. Your father was going to destroy everything I'd built. He was going to take you away from me." "You took yourself away," I said, watching Sienna flip through the documents. "The night you chose money over family." "I chose survival." Mom's voice cracked. "I was nothing before I rebuilt myself. Nothing. I couldn't go back to that." Sienna suddenly grabbed my arm, pointing to a document. A life insurance policy in Dad's name, taken out just weeks before his death. The beneficiary had been changed the day before he died. Did you kill him? The words came out barely above a whisper. The silence stretched for what felt like years. I just wanted him to stop, Mom finally said. The argument got out of hand. He had his heart condition. I never meant. Sienna's hand found mine, squeezing tight. I have something to tell you, too, I said, my voice steady despite the tears. I'm reopening the bakery. With Sienna. We're using my savings to restore it, to build something honest this time. Alara, please. And Mom? The investigators will find these documents. But how they find them, whether from me or during a raid, that depends on what you do next. The truth, all of it right now. You owe us that much. I could hear her crying on the other end. For the first time in my life, the sound didn't weaken my resolve. It strengthened it. 6 months later, I stood in the newly renovated bakery, breathing in the scent of fresh bread and possibility. The morning sun streamed through clean windows, catching the brass nameplate. Marshall's Est. 1992. Reopened 2024. Sienna burst through the door, her college acceptance letter clutched in her hand. I got in. Full scholarship. I hugged her tight, remembering how Dad used to celebrate my achievements with bear hugs that smelled of flour and cinnamon. He would have been so proud of us both. The morning paper lay on the counter, Mom's sentencing hearing making headlines. She'd confessed everything. The embezzlement, the argument that led to Dad's death, the years of manipulation. The prosecutor was pushing for 15 years. Did you read her letter? Sienna asked, nodding toward the unopened envelope on my desk. Not yet. We'd received identical letters from Mom's therapist yesterday, part of her rehabilitation program. Sienna had read hers immediately. I wasn't sure I ever would. The bell chimed as our first customers arrived. We'd kept Dad's original recipes, adding a few of our own. The display case gleamed with fresh pastries, each one representing a small victory over the past. You know what's weird? Sienna said, tying on her apron. I'm actually grateful in a way. If Mom hadn't tried one last manipulation with that GoFundMe scam, we might never have become sisters. Not really. I watched her greet customers with Dad's warm smile, somehow untainted by all the lies she'd grown up with. She was right. Revenge hadn't healed us.
Truth had.
That and the choice to build something new from the ashes of the past. Later, after closing, I finally opened Mom's letter. It was short, just 3 lines. I'm sorry I chose fear over love. Your father would be proud of you both. The bakery always smelled like hope. I placed the letter in Dad's old recipe box, next to the friendship bracelet Sienna had left there last week. Some wounds never fully heal, but maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe they're meant to remind us of what we've built in their place. Through the window, I could see our reflection in the darkened glass. 2 sisters, our father's daughters, choosing to rise.